My name is Silas Vane. I'm 26 years old and I live in a small town just outside Boston, Massachusetts. If you had met me back then, there would have been nothing remarkable about me. I worked as a junior data analyst for a logistics company in downtown Boston. I got the job the usual way, sending applications online, surviving a few interviews and getting lucky enough to receive an offer. My life followed a routine so predictable that I could practically measure time without looking at a clock. Every weekday, my alarm rang at 5:45 a.m. I would drag myself out of bed, make a cup of coffee, and stand by my apartment window while the sun slowly climbed over the rooftops. From there, I could see the parking lot below and the same cars sitting in the same spaces every morning. By 6:30, I'd be dressed for work. Nothing fancy, just a button-down shirt, dark slacks, and my company badge clipped to my belt. At exactly 6:40, I'd leave my apartment and begin the 12-minute walk to the subway station. Most mornings felt identical. The same streets, the same cold air, the same commuters staring at their phones while waiting for the train. At the time, I thought that routine would last forever. Looking back now, those ordinary mornings feel like they belong to someone else entirely. The subway became such a normal part of my life that I stopped noticing it. Every morning I boarded the same train with the same crowd of tired people. Some read books, some listened to music, most stared blankly at their phones. I usually sat by the window and watched the city slowly wake up. The closer we got to Boston, the more crowded the train became. It was strange how thousands of people could share the same space every day without ever speaking to each other. For nearly 40 minutes, that train was my entire world. My office was on the 12th floor of a glass building downtown. Most of my day was spent staring at spreadsheets, shipment reports, and performance dashboards. It wasn't exciting work, but I enjoyed the structure. Numbers made sense. Unlike people, numbers usually told the truth. Every morning I grabbed coffee from the break room, sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started working through whatever reports had arrived overnight. Days passed quickly when everything was reduced to rows and columns. Around noon, I usually left the office alone. There was a small sandwich shop 2 blocks away where I ate lunch at least 3 times a week. The owner recognized me by face but not by name. That was fine. I liked places where nobody expected anything from me. I'd sit near the window, eat my lunch, and watch people hurry through the streets outside. Everyone seemed to be rushing somewhere. I never knew where. Most people headed straight home after work. I went to the gym, not because I loved exercising. Honestly, some days I hated it, but sitting at a desk all day made me feel restless. The gym gave structure to my evenings. An hour of lifting weights, a short walk on the treadmill, then home. Simple, predictable, comfortable. By the time I returned to my apartment, it was usually dark. I'd cook something simple, watch a few videos online, maybe answer a text from a friend. Nothing special, nothing memorable. Just ordinary evenings passing one after another. Sometimes I wondered if adulthood was supposed to feel this repetitive. Then I'd wake up the next morning and do it all again. If someone had asked me back then whether I was happy, I probably would have said yes. Not because life was perfect, but because it was stable. I had a job, a place to live, a routine I understood. Nothing felt out of place, nothing felt unusual, and that's exactly why I remember those days so clearly now, because they were the last truly ordinary days of my life. The first strange thing happened on a Thursday evening. I was leaving the subway station after work when I noticed a weathered piece of paper pinned to a community board near the exit. Most people walked past it. I almost did too, but something about it caught my attention. It wasn't an advertisement. It wasn't a missing pet notice. It looked like a hand-drawn map. The paper was stained and folded, as if it had been carried around for years. Across the top, someone had written a single sentence: "Don't trace the path twice." I stared at it for several seconds before finally walking away. At the time, I thought it was some weird local art project. I wish I had kept walking. The next morning, the map was gone. Or at least that's what I thought. 3 days later, I saw it again. This time it was taped to a bus stop shelter nearly 2 miles away. The exact same paper, the exact same handwriting, and the exact same warning. Don't trace the path twice. I remember feeling uneasy, not scared, just uncomfortable. The kind of feeling you get when something doesn't make sense. I took a picture of it with my phone. By the time I got home that night, the photo had somehow vanished from my gallery. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. The map appeared again. This time, I studied it carefully. Several landmarks were marked in faded ink. Most of them matched real locations outside town. One of them pointed toward a wooded area I had never visited before. The following Saturday, I drove there. The forest sat beyond a narrow dirt road hidden between old properties. No signs, no parking lot, no official trail markers, just trees. Endless trees. As I stepped beneath the canopy, I noticed something strange. The woods were completely silent, no birds, no insects, nothing. Nearly an hour into the forest, I found a child's backpack. It lay beside a fallen log, dirty, weathered, partially buried beneath leaves. The sight immediately stopped me. There was nobody around. No nearby houses, no sounds, just that backpack. I called out several times. No answer. When I opened it, I found only 2 things inside, a broken flashlight and a folded piece of paper. My stomach tightened the moment I recognized the handwriting. It matched the map. The folded paper contained another map. This one was far more detailed. A winding trail stretched across the page. Several locations were labeled. Most of the words had faded, but one remained perfectly visible. Void here, those words had been written inside a rough circle near the center of the forest. Someone had drawn dozens of arrows pointing toward it, as if everything eventually led there. I should have left. Instead, I followed the trail. I reached the clearing shortly before sunset. At first, I thought I was looking at an enormous dead tree. Then I noticed the shape. The trunk wasn't growing normally. It twisted upward like tangled bones. Massive roots spread across the ground like giant fingers. The longer I stared, the more wrong it looked. Almost alive, almost watching. The forest around it remained completely silent. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I became aware of something else. There were footprints surrounding the tree, hundreds of them, none leading away. As darkness approached, I moved closer. The bark wasn't bark, not entirely. Parts of it resembled stretched skin. Other sections looked almost human. Then I saw the faces, dozens of them, faint impressions trapped within the trunk. Eyes closed, mouths frozen, like people buried inside the wood itself. I stumbled backward. The moment I did, every sound in the forest vanished completely. Even my own footsteps seemed muted. Then one of the faces opened its eyes. I ran. At least I tried to. After only a few steps, whispers surrounded me. They came from every direction. Men, women, children. Hundreds of voices speaking at once. Most of the words were impossible to understand, except one phrase. The same phrase repeated over and over. Don't trace the path twice. The voices grew louder, closer. I couldn't see anyone, but something was moving between the trees, keeping pace with me. I finally reached the edge of the clearing. That's when I looked back. Something was emerging from beneath the roots of the tree. At first, I thought it was another root. Then it stood up. Its body resembled black wood twisted into the shape of a human skeleton. Branches extended from its head like antlers. Its limbs were impossibly long, and where a face should have been, there was only darkness. The whispers stopped instantly. The creature simply stood there, watching me, waiting, and for the first time in my life, I felt a certainty so powerful it froze me in place. That thing had been waiting long before I found the map, long before I entered the woods, long before I was born. And somehow, it knew my name. The creature stood motionless at the edge of the clearing. Its hollow face remained fixed on me. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then the darkness where its face should have been began to shift. Images flashed through my mind. The backpack, the map, the footprints around the tree, the faces trapped inside the bark. Suddenly I understood something horrifying. The map had never been an invitation. It had been a warning. Everyone who followed the path eventually reached the tree, and everyone who reached the tree became part of it. The footprints didn't lead away because nobody ever left. I turned and ran. Branches tore at my clothes as I forced my way through the forest. The whispers returned behind me. Hundreds of voices, thousands, all begging me to stop, all begging me to come back. I didn't look behind me, not once. After what felt like hours, I finally burst out of the woods and collapsed beside my car. The moment I crossed the tree line, the voices vanished, just like that, gone. I drove home shaking. The next morning, I convinced myself it had all been some kind of nightmare, until I checked my jacket. Inside the pocket was the map, the same map, the one I had left behind in the forest. Across the bottom, new words had appeared, words that hadn't been there before. You traced the path twice. I burned the map that night. I watched every corner turn to ash. For a while, I thought it was over. Then strange things started happening. I would find dirt on my apartment floor after locking every door. I would wake up to the smell of wet earth. Sometimes, late at night, I could hear faint whispering coming from outside my bedroom window. 3 months later, I returned to the forest with police officers. The dirt road was gone, the clearing was gone, the tree was gone. There was nothing there except ordinary woods. No footprints, no backpack, no evidence, nothing. The officers assumed I had gotten lost. Maybe part of me wished they were right. That was 5 years ago. I still live outside Boston. I still work my office job. I still ride the subway. From the outside, my life looks completely normal. But every year on the same day I found that map, I wake up with muddy footprints on my bedroom floor. They always begin beside my bed, and they always lead toward the nearest window, never away from it. Last night I found something different, a fresh piece of paper resting on the windowsill. Old, stained, folded, the same handwriting, the same ink, and only 4 words written across the front. The path remembers you. I haven't opened it, and I don't think I ever will.